Good morning, everyone. This is another morning coffee series, this time top 5 productivity hacks. I'm Pavel Novak. I specialize in negotiation training and coaching. And today the main speaker will be Satu Ahlman, founder and CEO of Saga Performance, which is a company that specializes in sustainability of performance. So we prepared top 5 productivity hacks. But Satu, I know you have a very important message, a takeaway message to send right at the beginning.
Well, thank you, Pavel. Now it became such an important sentence for me. Well, a pleasure to have all of you here and a pleasure to be here talking about, yes, productivity and maybe from another angle that we're not just going to do this. But let's see, my main message to start with is I think we oftentimes think about productivity as a short-term thing, like how can I be the utmost productive during this day? And yes, while that is still, of course, the case, I think we should more start thinking about, okay, well, I'm here for the long game, long-term productivity. What does that actually mean in terms of efficiency, resilience, productivity, of course, but how do I keep on the focus that I want to have, keep on the clarity in my head, and at the same time, max my output in a sustainable way. So that is my entry message to everyone. Let's start putting our mindsets into that zone and let's hit the road, Pavel.
Okay, so I'm thinking from the zone point of view or the bird's eye view, we want to go even higher.
Yes.
On a long term.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Top 5 hacks. Number 1, you can see on the screen, stop deviating from your plan and minimize distractions.
Yeah.
So I know you said it's a long-term thing. At the same time, we all have our daily plan. This is the first event maybe of the day to get us started. So let's explain what that means, but also let's connect it with what can we do during the day.
Indeed. So whether it is today's plan or plan for this meeting or the plan for this week or the month, stop deviating from your plan is such a crucial message for anyone who wants to achieve high performance and productivity. Minimizing distractions, meaning that we all know that social media, emails, all those things are distractions. Also other people and other messages and other people talking to us face to face and knocking at the door are distractions. So how do I minimize that and be able to maximize the output? You can't avoid all these things from happening, but what you can do technically, of course, is, well, shut down notifications. Find the time. When are you actually reading your emails? When are you looking into social media? All that, yes. That's quite easy to actually arrange. Then whether you're actually applying these rules to yourself, that's another question. But another thing that is super important is the fact that we multitask. And I know that's also something we've been talking about for probably years, not just us, but other people as well and in media. But it's such an important thing to understand that really, what is the cost of you switching between tasks? What do you think, Pavel?
Well, I'm amazed at how much all these things kind of easily translate to the world of negotiation. So I'm thinking, stop deviating from the plan. When I coach people on negotiation, I often see that they don't have a plan or they have an insufficient plan to begin with. So it's very easy to deviate from it and start, negotiating with ourselves as we say.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I was thinking, this is interesting how it translates.
Yeah.
And another, we were talking the other day about the curse of the smartphone for negotiation. So, and I'm thinking of my kids, how easy the smartphone has become for them. Yesterday, I just heard that in Prague, you can have an app which will tell you that the tram is coming, so that they limit the number of clashes of trams and pedestrians. Imagine you need an app
for
to
that.
See a tram coming.
Oh, no.
So I think it tells something about how distracted we are.
It definitely does. That's horrible to hear. So you need to take your own responsibility. We all need to do that, to start, first of all, minimizing these external distractions, but also minimizing the fact that we allow ourselves to switch between tasks. So even though there's a really fun thing happening now that I could see outside from the window, I'm still needed here. And I need to be here because my brain is not capable of switching, or, well, it can switch, but the quality of my focus on each task is gonna be minimized. So it's not actually, if you think about productivity, that's not going to be serving you well, nor your brain health, nor your memory learning capacity in long term, nor short term.
So if I'm in this adrenaline state of, okay, I've got this 5 or 10 things to do today and I cannot waste any minutes, this is actually working against me.
Yeah.
And I know you said something shocking the other day, you know, just look outside the window for 30 seconds.
Exactly.
before you start a new task. So
Yes.
I think that could be the thing instead of the smartphone.
Yeah.
I see we have the second one on.
Yes, going forward. Another important topic to start understanding, actually, and reflecting on yourself on. So how much energy do you actually have, and how much energy do you need to fuel your, not just physical body, but your brain? We can see a lot of high performing, super productive, or at least they think they're super productive people, feeling fatigued after a day or even midday. And that just indicates that the fueling, it could be nutrients or nutrition in general, calorie intake, all that, or liquid intake, water, that is not in balance. So even those kind of things play a huge role when it comes to your cognitive capacity and your learning and memory, short term during one meeting or a day, but also long term. So you need to start understanding what is it that your body and mind needs, and how can you start consciously activating, fueling, and protecting your brain. And some of the things are, well, easier, eating good quality food and all that. And then another thing that I think we need to also look into is that what happens in the brain, the science part, the proteins that we want to enhance that protect our brain and cognitive capacity that we have mentioned earlier in the other sessions as well, such as the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, also the nerve growth factor. These are proteins, these are things that we need in our brain to actually be able to memorize things, learn new things, and also protect it in case of something serious, more serious would happen, like a stroke in your brain. So what can you do to boost these? Well, one thing that we oftentimes don't think links directly to brain and cognitive capacity is actually physical training. So the heat sprints, the interval runs, all that, what you can do, even go out to the cold air, do some cold treatment for your body. All these actually have an effect on your BDNF, for instance. So quite a cool thing. Another third one, before I let Pavel share something about maybe linked to negotiation as well, is humming. How many of you actually find yourself humming or singing in the shower, for instance? And have you ever thought about the effect it has on your system? This is quite a cool thing, that we have this kind of the longest nerve in our body, the vagus nerve, is actually being supported and activated and boosted through humming. So just like humming a song that you can't really remember the lyrics, is activating and putting you towards a more focused, calm state in the parasympathetic nervous system, which again has a link to your capacity and through that to your overall productivity.
So I'm thinking, Satu, everyone has the most important meeting today, right? I don't know which is your. I think there will be, you know, something in the peak hour as well.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking just, you know, taking the time to take a short walk before the big meeting could actually big boost. A small thing, you know, if you becomes a habit, having a nice impact.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
cold treatment is easy these days, at least in
Yeah.
your country and mine. But having a short walk, parking your car a little bit further to have to walk, running up the stairs or walking, taking the stairs rather than the elevator. These
Yeah.
small things can actually do wonders for the brain.
Definitely. I totally
Okay.
agree. Small things.
Next hack, please.
They are all linked to each other, as you can see. And this one is about creating space, breaks, and automation. So it comes back to understanding who you are and what you need. And then based on that, scheduling and creating even automated routines and techniques and tools that can support your flow in the day. And through that also support your productivity for each day. And in practice, creating space for your brain also to relax. This could be linked to what Pavel just said, just going outside, or what we said earlier, just taking a break, a breather for 30 seconds. That will already give you or create more space for your brain to reflect and to refresh itself. That will then lead to better focus and productivity. You also need to analyze when in the day or during the day are you the most productive? Are you more of the evening person, the morning person? When can you see that, okay, this meeting went super well because I had top-notch energy, I felt really awesome, my head was clear, and so on. So start understanding your own success pattern and try to find routines that support it, and actually start automating things. Also, when it comes to technology, some people are able to automate some email responses or just ready written emails that helps you save time. So it is also about saving time and saving effort, but it's also about creating that space for you to recover.
So I'm just thinking of a client who was complaining of time, and we started with his mailbox and kind of signing him off from all these automated emails, which were nice. He was probably interested, but he felt overwhelmed. So creating that space.
Exactly.
Very,
Because your
very-
brain doesn't have the capacity to handle everything at once, nor too many things during one day. So you can't think of having 5 meetings back to back and being on the top of the game for each meeting. It's just physically impossible.
And we know we are living in the age where there is so much information, and just our brain just isn't wired to handle it all. So it comes back to prioritizing and saying no to many things, which
Yes.
aren't really important.
Indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
Going forward. So again, linking it to what we just discussed, optimize and capitalize your recovery within each 24-hour period. So this is more short term, but the effect will carry on long term, obviously. So just not only analyzing during the day, when are you at your best, but also, of course, understanding that sleep quality and quantity matter. But sleep only cannot be your only recovery source for the day. So oftentimes I hear people say, okay, but I sleep very well. I sleep 7 hours and it's good quality. I go to bed and I just sleep and I wake up and I feel, okay, great, let's do this again. But then when we start actually looking into their stress and recovery stages, we see that there's no recovery during the day, and that affects your cognitive performance and your productivity and your focus and your clarity in your head and your physical performance as well. So you need to find how to fine tune that recovery so that you will have not as much recovery, but of course you will have multiple shorter hours and shorter minutes of recovery during the daytime that you can then have between your meetings. And it can be 30 seconds, or it could be 10 minutes of breathing work. It could be half an hour jog in between lunch and next meeting. You need to figure out what works for you. But what we want to send as a message is that you cannot have a day without recovery. I mean, a work day.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I remember seeing a client in Geneva where they had a sleeping room. So some people had lunch, other people had a nap.
Yeah. And I think
thought it was quite interesting.
That's very fair thing to say. You need to know what works for you. If you feel like I'm not now needing a more energy in terms of food. I actually need to rest for a while and just clear my thoughts before I can enter an important negotiation, for instance. Then you need to do that. But also need to understand that, of course, sometimes there is not enough time for you to take a half an hour nap or 15 minutes. You just have 5 minutes in between meetings. So you need to find tools that work. And here, for instance, a conscious breath work, like we've discussed, the box breathing, may support you tremendously just before a crucial happening.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I know it's a constant struggle. I talk sometimes to some friends and they say, you know, there's so much work. I feel I'd like to have a jog, but there is so much work I don't feel I can afford it. So what you're saying is that jog will actually fuel your energy so that you manage the workload in a shorter period of time and be more productive.
Yeah. So again, going back to my first initial sentence or two in the beginning of this session, you need to think long term. We all are here for the long run in our careers and in life, of course, hopefully. So why would we drain ourselves and just maximize the output and capacity on one day, or even worse, in two consecutive meetings? Of course, if that's a once in a lifetime and you need to nail that and there's nothing else to do, you do that, and we are able to. Our capacity usually is more than we actually realize, even in, or especially in, stressful stages, but that's not long term. You can't just continue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Satu, checking the watch, let's move on. And also I want to encourage everyone, if you have your experiences you want to share with the topic or questions that you have for Satu, feel free to start sending it.
So leading your performance, know how to reset and accelerate in high pace. And I think this is something that you and I, Pavel, have also discussed when it comes to negotiation and preparing for negotiation and important meetings in general. Like, how can you feel that you're in charge of your own performance and the output and the productivity? From my side, how I reflect on that is I need to have both the tools and the techniques how to do that, but I also need to understand how my system works so that I can pull the brake and push the pedal when needed, and even do that in a, as we now said just a minute ago, even if time is critical and even if I'm already on the fly, I know that I have the baseline that will carry me in that stressful situation so that I can move fast and recover fast and reset fast and then pull the pedal, push the pedal again. So linking it to negotiations, Pavel.
Yeah. Well, this is what rings a bell when I have a coaching with somebody who's learning to negotiate. And we were talking about the various ways or various styles, whether you become really active and really assertive when you negotiate, or whether you're looking for a compromise, or whether you're looking for collaboration. And it's actually good to know which is possible to achieve when, but it's also good to know which is your favorite. And for many people, just negotiating is a question of two assertive guys, you know, fight and winning over, which of course is a traditional view and not very effective. But you sometimes need to do that, especially if your other party is like that. So knowing that you have all these ways and being able to put them in practice can really save a lot of time, or actually wait for the right moment in time. So it's not always faster. Sometimes, as we said, less is more. So you can postpone so that you come back the next time with more force or more power or more information. So the link I see, and it takes practice. As we're talking about taking a break, everybody knows we should take a break. It's more about conscious applying.
Indeed. And that just brought up this one more thing in my head, that it's about consciously applying, but it's also about fighting your own fear. And I think many of us do these kind of short-term, let's just max the output here or today, because I'm afraid of taking the break. I'm afraid of, if I pull the brake now, I'm gonna lose something today. So I better secure this now because we are all living in the moment. And that feels more comfortable than saying no to something and then hoping that it will be a long-term gain. I think that applies to so many things in life, in negotiations, in meetings, in running your business, in having discussions with your family members. A lot of times when we don't do something or do something short-term that is not actually beneficial, it's about fear, what's in the background. What do you think, Pavel?
Totally understand. I think our brain is just living in the future. So we need to focus on now. So over to you, our colleagues. What are your experiences? What are your hacks? How do you take a break during the day? Or what questions and thoughts do you have about what was said?
Yeah, let's share some. If you have some tips that everyone could apply in the daily life, whether short-term or long-term, but maybe like even today, what do you think? What is your productivity hack that you have applied? Maybe it's tools, tricks, or mindset things. I know that many people talk about how to do goal setting in everyday basis, that you set your priorities for the day. For instance, I like to do that. So I have a self-coaching session in the morning to say, okay, what are my 3 most important priorities for this day? So at least I have that clear in mind entering the day. And then, of course, there are a lot of other things. And then you have, there's a book, for instance, Getting Things Done, by the way, that can be interesting for people to read. But we have a comment here. Important things in the morning when the brain is fresh. So that's a question.
It looked like a question. What should we do in the morning? I guess, okay. I hope.
Yeah, if you understand that right, Thomas, your question is about what to think in the morning or what to do in the morning when the brain is still fresh. So, of course, there's a lot of people who say that, okay, do the most difficult tasks first. But I think that's also individual. Getting maybe the important meetings when your brain is fresh could work for you. But again, you need to understand when your brain is the most fresh. Maybe for someone, it isn't actually in the morning. It's later in the day when you're fueled yourself.
We see a daily routine, which is a walk from 7 to 8:30 in the forest. And it's really changing my day.
Great.
Wow.
Connecting to nature, fresh air, moving your body. Yeah, imagine what that does to your brain, and you're boosting your brain-derived neurotropic factor, hopefully with that exercise as well. So that's great.
So I bet, Cecile, that you're starting the day with the energy up and your eyes shining and brain ready for work.
And we have a link from Solveig as well. So feel free to click on that and read. I'm definitely going to have a look after this. Thank you for sharing. And Marianne is saying it's helpful to have the priorities right when having full focus on those. I do use Eat the Frog. Yeah. Technique in the mornings. I put a lot of effort to make room for breaks between meetings. I love that. So definitely Eat the Frog technique is a popular one and might be recommended for many of us. And breaks, yeah.
Eat that frog, translated into a common language, is doing the most difficult task in the morning.
Exactly.
Excellent. Mariana, it's great to hear, because I see, a lot of coaching sessions are these days online, and it's like 90% saying, I have to run, I have another meeting. So just being able to squeeze that break in between, very important.
And I think eating the frog could be a task, it could be a meeting, but it could also be just having some difficult discussions with yourself or with someone else to take that sort of the stress level down already in the morning. Sometimes it's about planning your day that sometimes feels the most difficult for us. So whatever you feel like this is a thing that I want to push back because I feel uncomfortable doing that, then that might just be the thing that you need to do first, so that you can use your energy in the right way going forward during the day. The more you have these kind of frogs in the backlog, the more stress you might be having, even though you don't think about it. Great comments, everyone. Any questions? Now I had to click on Solveig's link. And is there anyone else who has already read this, or do you want to share something else? What is your main takeaway? It's about procrastination, I feel. Yes.
And Mariana is saying it's so relieving to hack the difficult, but usually the most important task. Then all the rest is easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And that's the feeling of getting things done, right? When you have the energy, have the focus, you deal with it, and you get rid of that which is stopping you from actually starting the thing. I think that goes back, Satu, to your comments about the fear fueling us and making us postpone things.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So Pavel, what would you say if we just wrap it up before we talk about our next session? What would be your main takeaways from this session?
Well, my main takeaway would really be like think long term and do the things that seem simple. It's not like a rocket science, but just stick to the basics, stick to the fundamentals, and it will pay off in the long run.
Absolutely. It's so easy to say that and somehow still so difficult in practice.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with external stressors, of course. There are so many things coming our way all the time that we need to block. So we still have 2 minutes to go. Let's talk about next session, Pavel.
Yes, next session we prepared the napkin tips on negotiating. What I mean by that is just the most useful frameworks that your mind can rely on when you're preparing for an important negotiation. And we say napkin because they should be simple so that you can draw them on the napkin when in the restaurant. So that's what we mean. I will be pulling out some of the best tips that have been fundamentals, just to say it frankly, but those are the routines that help me kind of find solutions when an important negotiation is ahead. Yeah. So this one is happening March 11th. We're taking a break, I guess, to recharge ourselves too. So it's not in 2 weeks' time. There's a longer break in between. But do feel free to invite your friends or join us or send us your questions.
And also get in touch in between. If you have any questions, whether it comes to this topic or upcoming topics or anything in between, just shoot us a message on LinkedIn or in any other way, you will find us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the session. Thanks, Satu, for the top 5 hacks.
Yeah.
And the session is officially over. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.